Ok, buenas tardes. No sé si les contaron, pero la exposición va a ser en español. Espero que no sea problema. ¿Todo bien? Will be. Thank you very much and welcome to the Integrating Diversity, Equity and Inclusion into Safety Practice. Welcome to the people at Zoom, parents, Nikolai, Charles, and of course, Alicia. My name is Giovanni Corvetto. I am the Rubin Observatory Head of Safety for the construction project. And also I am the EHA's Noodle Lab Manager in Chile. And currently and temporarily, I am also the Head of Safety of ORAO in Chile. So I have a lot of fun position. Plus that, I am father of an 18-year teenager. Today with me, my good friend Alicia Shugart, which is the Rubin Observatory Deputy Nighttime Manager, and also the best beer maker in the region of Coquimbo. When you go into La Serena, you must be tried Alicia's beer. Very, very good. Okay, so a reminder that being around in the conference, the code of conduct, you see the names of the people that you have available to be in touch in case of you have any concerning or complaint. Also to remind about the COVID-19, wear masks worn. We have some cases, so if you need to use it, wearing a mask. Check also the name tags for this contact level stickers, and also it's very important my social battery. That's something that I'm wearing here. Right now is green, so I can talk, but at the time of the question, I will turn in red. Okay. Okay, for the ones here, for the ones at the Zoom, please mute the microphones when we are not speaking. For the in-person participant who is speaking to the room, I believe that here is a microphone all over the room, so there will be no problem. And also at the Rubin 2024 Slack space, you can also put your questions and also any comments. Some instruction to follow the session today is that this is an icon or pictogram that you will see when the conversation of the presentation deserve a discussion of the topic. Okay? When we see this one, it's because it's reflected to a quote or a comment for somebody that also is open to discussion and comments. So it's just to be on a didactic way to understand what is going on. I use this way because sometimes my English is not so good, so people don't know if I am asking or say it. So, okay, I put this, and this is not entirely from me. I pick up from very place, but we have I know a writer named Ernest Hemingway that say the life is a fiesta. A fiesta is a party, and in that context, I say that diversity, for me, is being invited to the party. Equity is that the dance floor is suitable for everyone. So everyone can dance. Me, you, everyone. Inclusion is that they ask you and everyone to dance. So everybody's been asked to dance. And safety, well, safety is that when you come back home after the party, you are smiling and happy. So in this text, I want to summarize what is about safety and DEI. Why we have this element and concept such a linked and related somehow. Let's see if we are successful to understand that. So what we can expect for today, we can expect to understand the diversity, equity, and inclusion and into the safety practice. How those elements interacting between them, how impacted to the organization, and how we can provide with some tips and ideas for the leadership and how to improve our regular or currently performance into the integration of safety into DEI. We will see some samples and ideas and how we can this applying together can be impacted on safety. We can expect from today this diversity in safety refers to understand inclusion. that you understand that around you, you have a different background of people. And according to that, the perspective that you put on safety is according to the adversity environment. And be sure that you both applying those perspectives between the safety tools or the safety management system that you have as an organization. And equity and safety focus on fairness and impartiality. And that's maybe the most not developed area of DEI into safety today. Unfortunately, the technical aspect and the engineering aspect of safety has been very behind of inclusive and equity tools and elements. We will see that still today, the PPE, the personal protective equipment industry manufacturing, is very behind in terms of concepts such as gender diversity and many others, and a physical difference between people to wearing and having a properly PPE. Inclusion in safety emphasizes in creating an environment where all individuals feel safe. And that's very related to cultural safety. And Alicia will talk about that. We'll present a few slides about cultural safety. Okay, so as I say, Alicia will start with the cultural safety, then I will try to, in 3 major sections, explain what is diversity, equity, inclusion integrated into safety through these topics. And the idea is to, in some point of the presentation, you start to interacting with us, between us, through those comments and the samples that I will show at the presentation. So, Alicia, are you ready?
Sure, I'm ready. Thanks. So, like Giovanni said, I just want to talk briefly about cultural safety, which plays very heavily into some of the themes that he's going to be talking about later on. Cultural safety, I found this definition in an older paper, which I'm going to rely heavily on to explain how this is really applied. But cultural safety, or an environment that is culturally safe, is spiritually, socially, and emotionally safe, as well as physically safe for people. There's no assault, challenge, or denial of their identities, of who they are, and especially what they need. So it's about shared respect, shared meaning, shared knowledge, and experience of learning together. Next slide, please. So this term cultural safety, it was a phrase that was coined during the 1980s, and it came from New Zealand Indigenous health practices. So Maori nurses were actually emerging quite strongly in the caretaker and medical caretaking field. And they were, both from the practitioner side and from the patient side, were experiencing a lot of discrimination and a lot of really flawed care based on, due to clashes in culture practitioner. So there was a lot of times where, you know, the body modification practices were interfering with, or were perceived to interfere with medical care delivery, or just cultural customs that they needed to preserve, and medical practitioners were not respecting these things. So they began to use this term to understand how the healthcare provider and patient relationship could improve with respect to respecting these cultural boundaries and to navigating these differences. So it comes from a place of there's no assault on the person's identity, right? There's no, you need to compromise your cultural beliefs so I can deliver this medicine to you. It was expanded over decades to build the framework by which healthcare is provided to a lot of Indigenous groups all over the world, especially neighboring country Australia. And it's primarily governed by decolonizing healthcare practices. And of course, it was led by folks who were actually a part of the communities that were delivering healthcare to. The most important thing to remember of this and any other organization which is striving for cultural safety, the patient or the person who is the most vulnerable, they determine if they're safe, not the healthcare provider, not the organization, right? So that's the biggest thing we need to walk away from this with. Next slide, please. So I'm just gonna define here what is cultural competence, excuse me, versus cultural safety. Because a lot of organizations that are culturally competent or maybe even just culturally tolerant are missing some of the key aspects of being an organization that is truly culturally safe. So the difference between these two concepts is the notion of power and privilege. So cultural competence is essential to addressing initiatives like conducting community assessments, community feedback, implementing systems for racial and ethnic and language preference data collection, mostly kind of metric driven, and it's still rather top level. So cultural safety is what happens as a result of dynamic cultural competence, by which I mean we're going truly beyond metrics, we're going truly beyond, you know, not just having mechanisms from community feedback, but actually enacting that community feedback. And how that feedback is gathered may depend also very strongly on the community that it's coming from, right? So cultural safety is not this static requirement, it's very dynamic, and it's built off this very changing list of knowledge, skills, and attitude. So it's basically being created from everyone in the organization or everyone in the group having this critical consciousness of themselves, of others, and of the world around them. Next slide, please. So some of the things we can think about in an organization or a working group that's culturally safe. One of the biggest questions to ask of this organization is, are formal and informal leaders aware of biases, explicit or implicit? Formal leaders include directorate managers. Informal leaders are organizational influencers, right? There are people in working groups who may not be in a management position, but just seem to have a lot of influence, or definitely have a lot of kind of power of charismatic power, let's say. Also, it's an organization that's really more culturally safe is always evaluating training opportunities in these criteria, and not only how the opportunities that are available, but how they're taking place. Are they taking place only in informal discussions? Are they mandatory, not mandatory? And the organization or formal leaders, are they demonstrating awareness of these biases both in their conduct and in communication? And that means proactively accounting for them. I'm going to talk a little bit about policies and resources and how that's applied in another slide. So can we advance one, please? So what organizational norms support an organization that's more culturally safe? Again, a strong assessment on community and the organization itself, and how these assessments take place is very important. And they're not going to follow a formula. They're going to follow what the community or the communities within need the most. So community feedback opportunities and how they take place is very important. Dedicating time and space for important conversations and these learning experiences to happen. And more importantly, you know, how policies are created in this organization and who they serve. is very important thing to evaluate underneath an organization that's trying to be culturally safe. Next slide, please. So how is this safety, this culturally safe, environment modeled by leadership? Well, first off, they participate in these spaces when needed. That doesn't just, in one aspect that of being aware of privilege, influence, and power, they may know that, they may make a correct judgment that their presence in a space may violate it being safe, right? So participating in these spaces has a caveat. It's intelligent judgment of when leadership is participating in these spaces and when they can identify allies who are members of the in-group who can participate in these spaces and then communicate back. More importantly than just being there is creating the pathways for these spaces to initialize, creating opportunities for these spaces, for these conversations to happen. And most importantly, allowing the people within the organization to define what they need. So like I said, again, when this term cultural safety was coined, it was built off the principle that the most vulnerable person, or that the person receiving the healthcare was the person to determine if it's culturally safe. It's also allying with the most vulnerable to ensure proper amplification of issues, and then providing resources and channels to find information, to find resources, to find help. So next slide, please. So an application of policy and resource sharing, I'm going to draw on a conversation we just had in the accessibility jamboree session. And there was a comment in the Slack channel for this session that was very meaningful, that called attention that policies and resource sharing specifically shouldn't necessarily come from word of mouth or come from one person in this group simply sharing information with another, right? So when we rely on the need of just information to be passed from one person to another, rather than having a dedicated channel and a trusted source for information, that is the correct application of policy and resource sharing. It's also about intentionally seeking out the perhaps invisible, vulnerable folks. So people with, hidden disabilities, or people with who are in the LGBTQIA+, not necessarily identifying them, of course, if they don't want to be, but seeking out people who may be a part of the organization, who are not necessarily, visibly or perceptionally vulnerable, but finding these groups and making sure that they're connected with allies. And I know Prentice is in the room. He can probably speak at length about the impact of, in this case, employee resource groups. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this was an example of more holistic and intentional resource sharing. So this, John Franklin Crenshaw shared this slide during the accessibility jamboree session a few days ago. And they talked about how for the desk meetings, they independent of the location, they went and did a lot of the research. So people who are a part of these groups, or people who feel vulnerable traveling to these sites to participate in the meeting, can find resources for things that might make them feel unsafe, or for risks they might face traveling to such a site. And this again was this was based on a very impactful essay about the whole thing being unsafe, because there's no place in the world where every possible identity is safe in that location, right? Not only across the US, there are places in Europe or Eastern Europe or in South America where, you know, just because of your identity, you may be discriminated against. And this, I just wanted to cite this as an example of what a organization that is trying to achieve cultural safety does to ensure that all of these vulnerable groups have resources, they have them very, very visibly, they have them very prominently. And what's more important is that they've tried to do as much of the legwork or as much of the ground laying work as they can to ensure that people who are victimized because of these, because of their identities, don't need to do that work themselves. Next slide, please. So just to wrap up this piece about, you know, building the pathways to cultural safety, you know, it's key that leadership and staff reflect on the culture, attitudes, and beliefs about any other in any context, right? And of course, we want to constantly think from the positions of the most vulnerable groups in the organization. And we need to ask, do they feel trust in the organization? Do they feel safe? And how do we know this? It's not necessarily just going and asking a representative of that group. There are signs that will be made clear that people in a vulnerable group do feel safe. And there are different ways to find out. And of course, you know, building these practices of calling in people to these discussions and inviting this knowledge sharing while calling out barriers is a way to think about not necessarily alienating someone by negatively contradicting something they said, but calling them in and inviting them to discuss further. And finally, are people in the organization prepared to engage with others in multidimensional dialogues where these real experiences are shared? And what I mean by prepared as well is that do they have the training? Do they have any experience in having these conversations? Or is it completely brand new and you're asking someone who might not know about any of these, you know, barriers faced or discriminations to come and talk about them when they just don't have the knowledge yet? So that's kind of what I mean by prepared. So I invite you to ask any questions at the end or post anything in the Slack if you have any questions or comments about this material. Next slide, please, Giovanni.
Okay, any question for Alicia? Or the people on Zoom, any question? Okay, thank you, Alicia. Thank you very much. Very interesting to see the approach of cultural safety as a topic that is surprisingly for some people is not new. It's been for a while. During my research for this and others presentation on the same topic, I've been very surprised to see how many studies and evaluation and analysis on the different experts have been about the cultural safety and how safety is interacting now with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And even it's a lot, as I say at the beginning, we surprisingly see that the industry, especially on the manufacturing of PPE, is not on the same path, is kind of delayed. So to start the context of the diversity applied to safety, I want to talk about the safety plans. And in very short, what is a safety plan? Safety plan is a structured document that provides us with the minimal requirement, or let's say the framework that we use through across our organization to apply safety. So that will be the strategy, that will be include the procedures and different standards and the minimal requirement that those standards should have it to apply the safety plan. Saying that, we can understand that the minimal requirements are reflected on the safety plan, so we can use the safety plan as the core stone, or the main stone to start the concept of diversity, introducing or integrate into the safety. So when we design our safety plan, we can say the minimal requirement of the standards, but also put the minimal requirements that we are asking for diversity into safety. Okay, so where? That's the big question. You can say diversity at the beginning of the safety plan and that's it. No, we have to be very strategy in order to be not a deaf document, rather than a document that we can use it and be intrinsically implicit in everything we do. Not just a paper, not just a document approve it, but something that people understand and use it. So where? First, individuals, when we create our safety plan, when we design the safety plan, we must be taking account the diverse needs, where we are, who we are, what is our background, what is the characteristic of the people that work in the organization. So when we understand that, that will be more easy to create a tailored or a customized safety plan in order to be 100% diverse into the requirement that we apply. In the context, they should consider the diverse geographical, environmental, and situational context. We are on a very good sample. We have 3 geographical locations: Hawaii with all the cultural implicit, Arizona with the nation in Kitt Peak, and Chile with the language barriers, and etc. So here is a very, very good and nice challenger for ORA, for the organization or lab, Rubin, in order to understand the context. And when we create the safety plan, be sure that the context is implicit as a part of the diversity that we are looking for. And also the organizational goals. So when we align all this, we have to see where we're going to go with this. What is our goal as a safety, as an organization? Where are we going to go? And in order to that, align the same goals of safety with diversity will be implicit in between. So in a sense, the diversity will be reflected in the safety plan. And the hard part is to do it without saying it all the time. Diversity, diversity, diversity. This standard should be diversity. We should avoid that because it's not the idea. The idea is to be there without be there on a writing, in a visual way. See, but we have some samples. We are been doing something. Rubin having a very good sample of that when we designed the safety plan for Rubin Observatory. We defined as the multilingual or bilingual every single document and signage and anything that is happening in Rubin should be in English and Spanish. And the reason is because we're in Chile and we have a considerable amount of people that doesn't speak English, doesn't speak Spanish, sorry. So we have to meet that. We have, for example, that's an example of diversity without saying this, we are diverse. There's some multilingual or as many languages that we are using at the organization must be reflected on the standards as a minimal requirement. Anything that's designed in terms of the avoidance and signage and disabilities, handicapped people should be also reflected through the standards that we create at the safety plan. This is very important because it's the core of how we provide information about safety, how we prevent if people get hurt. So when we do it on a safety assessment or on a risk assessment or risk analysis of any of our activities, we should think about how we prevent that. Normally, the answer is to prevent it through properly training previous people, get interaction with the task or activity. But here's the tricky one, and here's the one that is related to diversity. So when we create a program training, we should think about it, how many people will take that, and what is the approach of the people, where is it coming from, and how to be diverse in terms of the training that we are providing. Right now, we are living in a lucky age because we have technology, we have Zoom, we have many devices that can help us to provide this properly. I used to be a long time ago that was not possible, and I remember, and maybe 20 years ago, I went to facilities in England, and they was showing all the history about the England Army around the world, and how they provide training for the people in different locations that the England Army was. And that was, I don't know, about 50 different manuals in different language. And they say to provide that, they have to provide with translator for each language. And sometimes one or two of them speak 3 or 4 languages. I was very lucky. But normally it was an army of translator with the army. So can you imagine that? Now we just need this, and that's it. No more. So yeah, we are living in a very lucky age, and that's very important. So training, very important in terms of the cultural sensitive that we are providing to training, and be implicit in that. Even safety, even it's very technical. Some things that are very technical and safety should also be touched by the sensitivity of the cultural things that are happening around. Well, of course, the very cliche, to be flexible. Yeah, but what is to be flexible is to understand the needs of the people that surround and will be around or applying the safety plan. So therefore, when we talk about flexibility, we are talking about the provide to the document, not to the people, provide to the document, to the safety plan, the chance to be flexible, not to the people, to us. We be the plan, see? Okay, and this is a gender sensitive, and here's what I have been mentioned before. So the safety plan should be create and design from the approach that we should be diverse in terms of gender, and everybody that has been applied to the safety plan. And here is what Mr. Michael Murray from the Gallagher Global Brokering uses. Say diversity is important for any business and any industry, but maybe even more in safety, because we are trying to protect a wide variety of workers. We need to all be represented. If we don't bring a diverse, inclusive process into the profession, we will miss opportunities to impact the organization we serve as a safety professionals. So we are talking here something very serious. So if we don't see as an organization that everybody is represented by the safety plan, we will miss the opportunity to some people don't get the message. And those people could be hurt. And therefore, our entire safety as organization will be. See? So here is a very serious and important thing that Mr. Michael Moore said. The other quotes that say diversifying, thank you. Diversifying the safety profession is not about meeting quotas. Very important. It is really about safety. See? I am being in discussion with some of my colleagues about this, and it's been very hard because people say, oh, we have to be represented by one and one and one. No, we are not talking about that here. We are talking about safety. Don't lose the focus. Here's safety and how we be diverse into safety. So we want to create a work environment that ensures that all employees are safe. That's the purpose. If women or any other group don't have a voice on the table, then their perspective are lost, along with opportunities to protect the workforce at large. See? So even if it's not represented, the idea is to be represented, not to be there because should be there. It's because it's represented, because the voice of these groups are there, and we are taking care of the impact and reflection of what we talk about it is in the safety plan, is in the safety action of the procedures, etc. Oh, that's Jennifer McNeil, is the CEO of ASSP, the American Society of Safety Professionals. Very important. So important. Okay, so now time to comments and discussion, and I will open with this. as a topic of subject of discussion. Many of maybe here in the room and maybe at the Zoom too have been in this situation. So in a 2021 Institute for Women Policy Research, trans women retention at the Advanced Survey answered by 2,635 trans women and non-binary trans people, it will reported that only 19.1% of the participants indicate that they were always provided with gloves or safety equipment in the size that fit them while working. You see that? So it's, let's say 20%, because it's very hard for me to say 19.1. So 20 for only 20%, they are probably using the gloves. So the rest, 80% of the employees are not using gloves because it doesn't fit. So that's huge. I don't know. I mean, you see being that issue anytime? Well, maybe you are not so, according to your profession, are not always using PPE, but things like that. We know we have experience in the summit, right?
I have to buy men's shoes because my feet are big.
Giovanni, I had a couple other questions.
Yes, sir.
This is a staggering kind of statistic. Related to the safety plan and integrating DEI and the safety plans, I know before I went to Chile, I had to go through that presentation. When are the safety plans created? And then also, do you have, in my experience, sometimes you have safety plans or pre-task plans, like before you do a particular task on a piece of equipment. So do you have, when are the, like a safety plan created? And then also, do we have any type of pre-task plan for safety or a tool or a function specific safety plan?
Yeah, exactly. So as I said before, safety plan is let's say a summary document that provides you with a list of the minimal required. So if you get through the Rubin Observatory safety plan, you will see that the Rubin Observatory have a minimal for confined space. This is the requirement. The minimal PPE to wearing at the summit site are this. So that's what. From that safety plan, you take all, you say, those tools, the procedures, the job hazard analysis, and many other tools that are related to that. So why I talk about safety plan as a very important core document? Because from that one, we are saying, this is the minimal. You can do it above this, but not less than this. So if we include diversity into the safety plan, we are not safe, but we are very, very good shape. You see? So, yeah.
So the safety plan is like the overarching document for everything that's done.
For everything that will be related to safety, yeah.
And so as you do tasks, you use that document to break out, like you're talking about, safety analysis and all that stuff.
Exactly. Coming from that one. So every time that you wanna, let's say that you have a new activity on at your workplace, you will go into the safety plan and see which are the minimal requirements that they're asking for. I have a bunch of reference about the OSHA, ANSI, NFPA 70E, many documents, Chilean's regulation, etc. Okay, so but here, huge numbers, and in my opinion, very, very, very important thing because it's scary. We are seeing here, according to these numbers, that 80% of the people is maybe don't use a PPE, and consequently is in jeopardy and in risk to get hurt. See?
There's a question.
Sorry. Oh, Charles, sorry, I didn't see you.
Thank you. Not a problem at all. This is not surprising to me, even in our scientific fields, never mind the safety stuff. In her recent autobiography, the astronaut Katie Coleman talks about how when NASA shifted from the space shuttle program to the ISS program, it canceled the construction of spacesuits of smaller sizes. And so for Katie to actually be on the International Space Station, she had to lie and say, oh, sure, I can use the middle size, no problem. And she was swimming around in there. She had to get advice from other women astronauts about how to wear bulky clothing so that she could fit into the suit and not kind of wander in and out while she was doing EVAs from the International Space Station, where she lived for months. So this is a really interesting insight. I'm learning so much just in the past, since 4 o'clock, how this is such a significant thing. But I just thought about that concept, and all of our work, not just safety, has been this kind of thing for a really long time.
Thank you, Charles. Very, very good input. Actually, I will use the sample because it's very, very remarkable. I mean, an astronaut. Thank you very much, Charles. Yeah.
Giovanni,
Yes.
one other quick question. You had mentioned that the industry that provides PPE and safety equipment is quite high.
Yeah.
And I know just from being here, I know that like safety harnesses and stuff like that, that's something. Do we have any way of influencing the industry to make sure that they're looking like this example that Charles talked about? That's kind of ridiculous. I mean, it's crazy.
It's great. Yeah.
But-
Yeah. Yes, it is. And actually, I have on this. You can see this on
Okay.
and I have a copy here. The Women and Safety. That's in a paper that the American Society of Safety Professionals released in 2019. And since 2019 and before, the American Society of Safety Professionals has been working in studies and analysis in how to improve, especially on the PPE, the personal protective equipment delay or behind that we have in terms of the different genders. If you ask me 5 years ago, we don't have so much, but now the second week of August, that will be the ASSP in Denver, Colorado, the conference. And I know there's many sessions about this related to this topic in particular. The American Society of Safety Professionals has been pushing to the Congress and others and entities of the government to the manufacturing company be more inclusive in terms of the PPE that they are designing. Chile is a nightmare. Chile is a very, very low design for a different size, especially in safety shoes, and a reflective vest, harness, etc.
So what do we do in those cases where they might not have the right PPE because
That's very amazing what we are doing now, because at the time I get the information that the specific area will start a recruitment or a candidate is being chosen. My first action, and I'm sorry what I will say, but my first action is to see if it's a woman or a man. And if it's a woman, I right away get my phone, call to my vendor, PPE, say, you know what, I need a safety shoes for women. Right away, because I know that will take not 3 days, will take 3 weeks or a month. You see? So
Yeah.
that's Alicia, you have a question or
So to address Prentice's comment, what I've done with just a little bit of purchasing flexibility, buying PPE in Chile is, I'm sure it's difficult everywhere, but it's difficult here because women's sizes run very petite, and I'm a pretty large woman, and the men's sizes, you know, also run on the smaller side, but anyone who can confidently say their size, there's actually a 50-50 chance it will be incorrect when I order in Chilean models. So what I've done and what I've gotten permission to do was I've ordered a range of sizes from extra small to extra large in women's vests, a range of sizes in extra small to extra large in men's jackets, women's jackets, and boots. And what I do is I just, when people need to get equipped, I have them try on both models and just try on the ones, and the closest fit wins. Unfortunately, like when I was looking around for specific like women's PPE and stuff like that, there's only 1 or 2 manufacturers, and as Giovanni indicated, the lead time for delivery on these items is very, very long. So, and I think in this case, like, before we can, you know, advocate for tailored PPE for every person, which would pretty much solve this, right? Is to just have as many intermediate sizes in both models as possible, because unisex models aren't, they tend to be men only anyways.
Thank you, Alicia.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, we are moving. Entities such as the ASSP is moving forward. Chile is moving forward as well. In August, we will move for a new regulation about harassment and also taking of the inclusive aspect, and that will help a little bit maybe to issues like this one. Regarding to equity into safety practice, we understand that equity and safety are together. They are not way to, they be on a different way, because safety is not for a few, it's for everybody. So when at the time that I open my business, I want everybody in my business be safe. So my organization will be 100% covered on safety. That means equity for everybody. Everybody have the same opportunities and chance to get and be safe. But what we do at the very beginning, the assessment and awareness is one of the most recommendable way to start with that assessment. So looking for unique access to safety equipment. We already mentioned the PPE, among others. Differential training opportunities. That's also something that is quite very remarkable, especially when we are going through a multicultural and a multi-nations environment of organizations such as us. We have a very, very important challenger in Chile in order to provide the equal training opportunities for expats and for Chileans. And not only because their language barrier, because that's easy, you can translate it, use a Google translator and that's it. It's because the orientation and sometimes the certification that the Chilean government asks, and as only for Chileans. But in organizations like us, we have to homologate the same certification and do it through our own system. So that's one of the solutions that we are being applied. Language barrier and discriminatory practices as well. We see that attend with the equity. So how we can integrate equity into safety practice? Here is one that it is very important. It's again, it's a document. It's the safety policies. So when we talk about the safety policies, is something before the safety plan. Is what we say as a statement, as a principle of safety, as an organization. We can say that this is an inclusive participation, that is non-discriminatory reporting and response mechanism, that we have tailored training and communication. All those factors and elements could be included as a part of the policy to assurance equity. Assurance equity, at least on the paper and the policy. Let's see how we apply it on the practical way. So the design of the environment, health, and safety policy from the perspective of the DEI, it is, as I said before, is crucial. We will not have the concept of DEI or the safety without the DEI implicit. By incorporating the DEI approach into the EHH policy, equal opportunities are immediately promoted. Immediately, when we say as a statement of the organization, as a policy of the organization that we are equity on safety, we are immediately promoted that as opportunity. The inclusion of diverse perspective, the equity in implementation, and the accessibility and reasonable accommodations. Well, we all know this, and it's been everywhere, the difference between equality and equity. So one way to reflect equity into the safety policy is to be sure that through the policy, everybody is represented. And here is a new component that I recently learned about. It is the fourth member of this family. It used to be diversity, equity, and inclusion, and now is belong. The belonging is now coming on the show, and it's very important because we are seeing that people need to feel that belong to actually apply. And in safety, that's crucial. When somebody don't believe that doing this is safe for him, will not do it. Even you put signage, even you put regulation, even you put sanction, will not do it because he don't believe or she don't believe from the soul of his heart. That's the importance of people feel represented into the safety culture or the safety policy or the safety plan that you are provide as an organization. We must ensure that all components of the organization be identified with safety. So when we say, okay, this is a policy and here is the English version. And where's the Spanish version? Oh, no, we don't have. Okay, that's not for me. That's just from the gringos, not for me. You see? So we need that. We need to understand very, very from the bottom of our heart that we need to be represented. Everyone should be there. That's equity. So here's an example of equity. And I'm sorry that's from my country, but it is true. Something equity in Chile in safety. In Chile, there's an entity mandatory by the Chilean regulation, Chilean law, Chilean government, is the Joint Committee on Occupational Safety and Health, the CPHC's Comité Paritario de Higiene y Seguridad. So it's a mandatory body between the workers, the employees, and the company, the employers. And the sole objective of this committee is to promote safety and healthy conditions into the workplace. That's the main focus and objective of the joint safety committees in Chile. So how is the committee? They have two sides, two parts. One is the company representative. So there are three members that have been delegated by the company. So the employers say, okay, Rampal, Fernanda, and Amanda will be the representative of the company. And if we have contractors between the company or contractors working on permanently modes, they will be also represented, at least one of them. One of the representative of the company contractor will be on the committee as well. The worker, the employees, they have also represented, and they have been chosen by the election. So all the workers do an election every 2 years and elected the representative on the safety committee. They have to meet once a week, once a month. They have the right and the responsibility to investigate the accidents that happen. They have the right and the responsibility to provide safety walkthrough and proposal to the company. And the company have the mandatory by law obligation to listen to the proposal. Not do it everything, but listen to the proposal and provide a formal answer. This is in a way that you show equity in terms of safety, with everybody is represented. Workers feel represented because I chose Rampal as my representative for the safety committee. And the company also will be and feel represented if they have their own person members in the committee. Here's a good sample of how to do equity, put equity into safety policy or through the safety policies. Any question about this safety committees? I'm very proud of the safety committees.
Sorry if you said it, maybe I wasn't paying attention. What do they do about mental safety and mental health?
The Comité Paritario, the Joint Safety Committee, or at all?
All of this, this bit that you just talked about, the health and safety, the health part. What do they do? Is there a mental safety and mental health element to it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The Joint Safety Committee have between the responsibility also take care of that. How is that? For example, the new law, the law 21643 that start on August the 1st, have a strong lean for the mental health and the condition of the workplace in that sense, stress and many others. Comités Paritarios, the Joint Safety Committee, are part of the application of the new law. So that's the way that they also are involved. We are just finished through the ORAO with the new assessment of risk of mental health and also the stress and others related to harassment.
And Comité Paritario, the Joint Safety Committee, is one of the providers of ideas and risk that we must be applying in place.
You said Aura O.
Oh, yeah.
And the rest of Aura?
Aura O.
Only Aura O.
Aura O. That's, don't make me start because that's part of the discussion of the. Yes.
So it's great that we have this committee, and it looks like it's mandated, well, it is mandated by law. Do we have any internal mechanisms for like any internal, I know we have safety coordinator, we have all of that, but is there any other mechanism where we have like the staff involvement, safety that's not part of it? Like
Part of
safety, yeah, like safety teams that are not mandated by law? Do we have anything?
I don't think so. In between us, no, I don't think so. We have some safety councils integrated by the management and another lab, but maybe you know, but not at the level of the workers, as far as I know. That's my idea, but I think the safety committee is something that, despite the Chilean's regulation mandatory, is something that we can apply also in Hawaii and Arizona.
Yeah. I mean, I know we had one of my previous employers. We had voluntary safety teams where we had representatives from not safety coordinators, representatives from the staff. Yeah. Or that different shifts, because we have shifts too. And they would meet at some frequency and then bring those suggestions into site leadership for things that they're seeing. Yeah. So, but it sounds like that, you know, we have this committee. So I see that as an opportunity.
It is, actually it is, and it is from the approach that there's not because it's mandatory, but because it's some formalizing way that the company, let's say, listen to this group, listen to this committee, and should do it, should apply what is being suggested. I know that the type of committees that you mentioned, and yeah, I have experience in other countries, that Canada and Iceland, they have the same. There are recommendations, suggestions, and sometimes they're very, very conscious, the companies, and take the advice and the consulting of these committees, and sometimes just, you know, just okay, whatever. Well, but in my opinion, if we can provide the approach that we have here in Chile, I will be very beneficial for the company.
One other quick question. I know that this is Chilean focused, but like the ADA, American Disabilities Act, are we following those type of guidelines? And
I believe so. Yeah. I think Kevin and the guys here in Arizona, Hawaii, so moving to an inclusive safety culture. It is two sides here, and for the inclusive safety culture, the importance and benefit. The first one is that when you create an inclusive safety culture, you are talking about enhanced safety for all. So I mentioned it before when I said, when I open my house, I want everybody to be safe. So that means inclusive. That means the consideration of diverse, the consideration and the challenges that I have as an organization, geographical, language, physical barriers, the diversity of people that is integrating my company, my organization, should be a part of this enhancement of the safety for all. The other one is the importance of the inclusive safety culture is that increase the employee engagement. Because when employees feel that they own a process, when they see that they are motivated because it's something that is a benefit for them and for everybody, they will be more engaged, and that will be more easy for everybody. We will see in some samples in the next slide how we can improve that through several of safety tools that are easy to implement and could be a help and support this engagement that we are talking on inclusive safety culture. So being inclusive in safety, that's not mine, taken from the Safety for Seas and a maritime safety page, webpage. So being inclusive in safety means valuing, respecting, and supporting individuals by focusing on their specific safety needs and ensuring appropriate conditions for them to reach their potential. This inclusivity should be reflected in the organization's safety culture, work practice, and relationship to support a diverse workforce. Ultimately, this will create a work environment that recognizes, appreciates, and effectively utilizes the talent, skills, and perspective of every employee. Perfect, wonderful. I want to see that in my grade, my tomb. My tombstone will say that. Yeah. Okay, so, but applying we all know that maybe the 4 factors of a model of inclusion. So applying to safety, how we can use it. So in terms of the respect, openly recognize and value the needs perspective of each employee, creating channels them to be heard. Strength tools such as the job hazard analysis. What is the job hazard analysis? Well, we use in Chile, and I think where we will move across the North Lab, Arizona and Hawaii use it too. The job hazard analysis is a tool that the employees, the workers, can use on a daily basis in order to evaluate and analyze their own activities and tasks. So, for example, if we will start on a task right now, we can use the form of the template of the job hazard analysis and evaluate the risk and hazard through a form and a template that is already being created. This document, and more than the document, the process around the document is what help and support the respect, because those information that the workers provide to the job hazard analysis goes directly to the supervisor, to the management, and when ideas or assessment of risk that are being evaluated as a risky or as a low safe being considered and reflected into the properly process, then is when you start to show respect for the process and the workers start to feel belonging to the process and inclusive. Belonging, again, promote a safety culture where employees feel comfortable speaking about issues without fear of retribution and marginalization. Joint safety committee is one example, the safety joint committee. Empowerment, empowering employees by giving them the authority to make decisions related to safety. Stop worth authority, the best. Provide to every single one of the members of the organization the SWA, and they will start to feel that they have the power on safety. They don't need a supervisor or a manager or a safety coordinator around to stop any risky or hazardous situation. They have the power to. When we start using the SWA, and the SWA beside be the action is taking care, and that process is coming and pop up to the level of the management, workers start to feel that, you know what? That improvement to the process is because me. They should call it the Giovanni's way, something like that, or the Prentice way. Huh? So people start to see, that's me. Fair progression, provide all employees access to comprehensive safety training, development opportunities that align with their end responsibilities. That's also very important. Training is key. It's very, very important. And sometimes we forget about that. We're just looking to provide and be on compliance with the legal regulation and certifications, NFPA 70E, etc. But it's more than that. Through the safety training, we can create also culture and inclusive equity and diversity. And that's because at the time that we can say, okay, this is the situation, this is the training that I have to provide because the mandatory law say that. Okay, how will be this one spicy with the North Lab Rubin condiments? How will be that? And there's the time that you put safety plan, DEI and safety, your principle, your spirit. Okay, so being inclusive leader in safety on a multicultural environment as the best. Some people believe that having a diverse team automatically lead to the success, but it's not. We need to, in a workforce that require more than just having a diverse team. So we need something more than that. Maya Angelou said, I've learned that people will forget that you say, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So today, after this session, you will never forget how you feel it with me. I promise. But it's true. People start to forget about it, forget the email, forget the safety recommendation, forget the safety manual, forget the safety orientation that is at the very beginning. How many remember the safety orientation? Nobody remember that. But if you feel every single day comfortable, if you feel safe, as Alicia mentioned, the feeling to feel safe on a place. Strategy to help leaders. Self-awareness. Understand, we have a cultural background different, and we have to work into that preference and diversity. Getting to know your team, understand what is going on, who is who, and why is different. Catering to preference, recognize the accommodation individual preference to celebrate wins and cater to different communication. We mentioned multilingual, broke the barriers that different cultures could be for safety training and safety communications, checking affinity bias, teach inclusion and safety imperative, educate your team members interacting with each other under the premise that inclusion is not only a human right, but also crucial for ensuring safety in our workplace. So, we have in Chile, and there's one there for Rampal knows. So we have sometimes many instances that we feel that we provide something regarding to safety, and that's unfortunately because the Chilean regulations are very strong to say this is for the Chilean people. So we are very on a bias, obliged bias to an expat be not included, and we try to do it for everybody. So when we try to provide safety recommendation, of safety information, of safety communication, our idea is to that language, and the data that we are providing is equal and transversal, globally capable to be communicate and share. So my ideally world is where everybody in Chile or in wherever it is, the workplace can talk about the same safety topic, despite it's in English, in Spanish, in Chinese, wherever. So that, I don't know if I can explain very well. And in Spanish, I can say it very, very clear. Okay. And foster open dialogue. Encourage your team member to prioritize listen over speaking and recognize that everyone has fundamental need for inclusion and should feel entitled to contribute to safety discussion. So here is when we have the tailgates, the toolbox, 5 minutes talk, the coordination safety meetings. Encourage the people to talk. Everybody should say, not only the safety coordinator of the supervisors. Safety orientation on boarding tours, very important to be. Avoid comparisons. That's also another one for the safety inclusion. And finally, because it's, what time is this going to be over?
5:30.
5:30. And what time?
5:10.
In Spanish. Okay, I think we will have some time for some comments maybe. So final conclusions to all that we talk and see today is integrating safety into diversity, equity, and inclusion, focus on creating a work environment where all employees, regardless of their characteristic or background, feel safe, valued, and empowered. I think that the last two sentences are very strong. Background, feel safe, valued, and empowered. Because for me, what is more important as a safety engineer? Provide the best management safety system or the best safety plan, or that people come to me and say, you know what, Giovanni, I feel so safe working here. That's my goal. That's what I'm looking. The other one I can create. I can write 1,000 of safety plans in English, Spanish, Chinese, Thailand, Icelandic. Final conclusion. Develop safety policies and practice that are equitable considering the diverse needs and perspective of employees. Promoting inclusions means not only meeting safety requirements, but also fostering a culture that respects difference and celebrates diversity. Diversity, equity, and inclusion integrate into safety, create an environment where everybody individual feels valued, protected, and empowered. The holistic approach not only enhance workplace safety, but also foster a culture of respect and collaboration, and ultimately leading to a more equitable and productive organization. This is the final quote. True safety goes beyond physical measures. It encompasses a culture of understanding, empathy, and unity. Who say that? Giovanni Corvetto. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Charlie. Charles?
That's a clap icon.
It's a clap, sorry.
I was clapping, but I don't have a question.
Ah,
So
okay.
people in the room can have, if their hands are up, they can ask first, and then I'll jump in.
Any question? In the room? No? No questions here, Charles. So we are.
Well, thank you very much, Giovanni. I really appreciate this talk. As a person who has been trying to attune myself to issues of DEI for a long time, the concept of safety as a DEI priority, or incorporating DEI as a priority into safety, is actually something new that I'm just learning today. So I really appreciate your presentation. Thank you. I think I need to know from you and others in the room, what kind of resistance have you had to work through when you try to promote these ideas? This is a classic problem that we all have to deal with anytime we're trying to do things the right way or a different way from what people are used to, right? It's especially intense right now in the United States, where a major party presidential candidate is being mocked as the DEI candidate, using that kind of wording as an insult. So in your work in doing DEI and safety, are you facing the same kinds of challenges that we're facing here at DEI in general? And if so, how are you trying to deal with those or mitigate those problems?
Yeah, I guess I can explain that in two ways. One way is that, or on a main issue to apply DEI is, and it's kind of ironic, is the government in Chile. Yeah. That the regulation of them, they are not DEI at all. They are not considered that we, for example, we, Aura, or NORLAB, or Rubin, we are an organization that is multicultural. And we need to be, from that approach, be considered in terms of the safety. So that's my first barrier. And the second one is coming from my own capacity to adapt the cultural, environmental at all and everybody. But I understand that it's not easy. My team in Chile is Chilean safety engineers, safety coordinators. I have to deal with expats with different cultural backgrounds, but we have to adapt it, and that's the part when we start to learn it. I am very proud of the Rubin Observatory project, and I have to now acknowledge the former head of safety, Chuck Gessner, because he was at the very beginning to asking for budget to the safety coordinator in Chile, being here in the United States and getting the OSHA certification to understand for the future how is the safety regulation in the United States, in order when the experts come to Chile as a consequence of the project, we be prepared. So right now, 3 of us, we are already OSHA certified specialists. And that's because Chuck's vision. So that's a very good example of how to envision something in the future. But answer your question, Charles. I think mandatory regulation of the Chilean government as the principal barrier, and then our own capability to adapt it to the multicultural situation that we have. That's the most important. And of course, that we have our internal policies and that are very hard sometimes to adjust. So I talk a lot about 2 major documents that should be reflection of the DEI, but it's very hard. We all know how hard this policy be changed and updated. Have to go through a long process of approbation. Safety plan is the same. So my opinion is that flexibility should help a lot. If we can go through a process more easy, let's say, for approval of documents, that will be more easy for us to adjust, because this is on a constant dynamic. We just talked about DEI, soon we will talk about DEIB, and maybe more in the future.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. If I could, oh, I'm sorry. Can I follow up on that, Giovanni, a little bit? And I think maybe Alicia could comment on this too. This would also be helpful for me. Giovanni, I was struck. The one thing that I heard that stuck with me over the past hour or so is that you had somebody ask you, is this particular safety protocol or sign or whatever it is written in Spanish also? And I was, oh no, this is just for the gringos, right? Is that kind of cultural safety, the mental idea that you need to make everybody safe at the same time, how does that extend out to everybody in the community? Not just the differences between, say, men and women, or the differences between Spanish speakers and non-Spanish speakers, but all of the community. Are there specific challenges that we all need to pay closer attention to that we should put into this conversation?
Mm-hmm. Alicia, you have a comment on that?
I guess I would say, like, one of the biggest indicators of this cultural safety and this integration of DEI and safety is actually this Giovanni referred to it as the Stop Work Authority program. And that is essentially, if anyone in the organization or anyone on site, a janitor, a tech, a visitor, any person who crosses the threshold of the site, sees something that they, or observes something that they perceive as unsafe, they can activate this Stop Work Authority and the process will stop, whatever the process is. Someone going up a rickety ladder, or a very important, potentially like a lift procedure. So because you can ensure that, like, every person, that every safety manager, will see these things, you're reliant upon the entire organization, upon all these different people seeing these things, perceiving them, and saying they're unsafe. And saying they're unsafe with respect to their perspective. So under the legal obligation that everybody who crosses the threshold can be physically safe, it's pretty easy. It's easy to extend that to further, right? And we don't ask, like, oh, why did you feel unsafe? Because your body type, or because your, perception of safety is culturally bound. We don't ask those questions. It's, that person said it was unsafe, so we stopped the process. It was pretty, it's pretty full stop at that point. In addition to that, like, creating the environment that everybody who crosses the threshold really believes that they can stop a very important process. Like, these might be how we have to pivot, and how, Prentice is thinking a lot about this too, how we might have to pivot the world of DEI into something else, right? Yeah. Given the presidential elections in the United States, and a lot of anti-DEI rhetoric, is that, DEI is about workers' safety. Holistically, like Ron Powell said, it's about mental health safety, it's about physical safety, it's about cultural safety. But maybe the world of safety is how we actually gain traction in DEI spaces in the near future.
Good point. Good point. Thank you, Alicia and Charles, for your questions. Yes.
I think back to Alicia's talk and kind of the distinction between cultural competence and cultural safety, and how Alicia kind of made the point that's important that that's in our leaders. And I feel like right now, as a whole, not just Ruben, but you know, everywhere, the approach right now is, you know, leaders just hire people to be passionate about the cultural safety so that they can do other things. And I worry, how do we get those people that are passionate more in the leadership position, so we don't just have workers or people involved that are like, I'll go to Giovanni because he cares and the company doesn't.
Exactly.
You know, and that's, I don't know that there's an answer to that, or an easy one at least, but how do we get to that point?
Well, I think it's back on the same, is to say, when we talk about an inclusive safety, we are talking about everybody, starting from the management. So one of the regular questions talking about a recruitment interview for a safety professional is the question of who is in charge of safety, who's responsible for safety? And the normal answer is everybody. No, it's not. It's not everybody. Yes, everybody have a very huge responsibility on safety, but the management and the leader are more responsibility because they have to show the context of that. They have to acting with the sample as a safety professional, as a safety inclusive, as a safety diversity, as a safety equity, etc. So it's very good your point, because you're saying, yeah, sometimes you're feeling that the management or the leader of the say, okay, I will hire this Giovanni. Giovanni will take care of that. I see production, I see manufacturing, I see etc. But no, what we need here, and when we're talking about this holistic global environment of safety, including DEI and safety, we are talking about from the high position management in the organization down to the level of the organization, the down level of the organization should be reflected. So when we talk about SWA, I can see one employee going to the president of the company saying, you know what, Mr. Stop work authority, you cannot do that because it's unsafe. So that type of things, and vice versa. See? Are you satisfied with the answer? Yeah. Okay. I think that we are almost, done, 5 minutes. I just want to thanks to everyone for today to be here. Thank you for the people in Zoom.